that degree, then we give him credit that he has built a judiciary or judicial institutions, the courts, that are independent of how he personally exercises power. And there is sufficient evidence to it, in the sense that at the height of the debate on Besigye, Besigye was able to go, when Besigye was taken to court-martial, I was surprised that the Supreme Court actually decided to hear a case it had been sitting on for years and ruled in such a way that Besigye was now taken out of the military court-martial. But of course, me, I have my own suspicions. I think that it could also have been Museveni's trap to call the Chief Justice and say, please, you issue that case, judge it like this, so that so that we give credibility to the courts. So that when he comes exactly where he has to go, he's convicted from there, then he can't claim that these courts are not independent. Because Museveni is a great strategist. He's able to look towards the end of something and where we are. It's possible that Museveni knows the provisions in this law will be thrown out by the court. So I am not interested in what are the legal issues, but what are the political motivations for him, because there is a Supreme Court ruling in Uganda stating that Parliament cannot pass a law.
It's an article in the Constitution.
It's an article in the Constitution, okay, to overturn a decision of the court. The separation of powers exactly does that. It's like the Parliament, the legislature, would be usurping the powers of the courts and undermining their powers to adjudicate disputes. Please don't think that Museveni doesn't know about this. So why does he bring it? My own suspicion is maybe he's not interested in it going through. There are many parts of the law that he wants to go through. This is a negotiating chip. So when you go there, this issue of Kaunda suits and this, you can argue the smaller things will remove, but he retains the main aim that he wants. Because when you go to negotiate, I don't know whether you've ever bought things on the street. They will come and say, we want 100,000 shillings for this. You can negotiate and buy it at 10,000. In any negotiation, you need to put many demands. There are core demands on which you don't want to compromise. You put them there, then you add another 50. You keep negotiating the things you are not even willing to have until you retain exactly your original position. So it's possible that Museveni is doing that. And again, I would say, I don't think that this is happening without his personal involvement. Like he has called the NRM caucus to go and beat them to pass this law. This law is, they must create specific categories to say a civilian of this type who has committed this kind of crime or been involved in something like this should be tried to a court-martial. In that sense, I agree with the Gen Z here that actually we should not be blind to the fact that there may be a necessity for a civilian involved in particular subversive activities against the state being tried in the military court-martial. The fear, of course, should be that tonight I have come here and accused Museveni of something, the next day I'm in a court-martial.
Mwenda, do you think the opposition has put up a formidable front to oppose this law?
I think that in terms of, yes, emotional appeal, I watched Honorable Ssemujju on TV. They have spoken very well. First of all, the government, all the TV clips I've watched, the government is very shabby. So the law was presented by Bahati. The Minister of Defense was brought there. No, but initially, yes. But anyway, it was just a circus I watched on television. And I wondered, if this is so important to you, why didn't you even prepare the basics for it? So the opposition made a very good case. But what I feel like the opposition misses in Uganda is that we talk over each other. I feel like the opposition has not understood where NRM is coming from and how they can structure a debate to... Let me give you an example. In the 6th, 7th Parliament, where Ssemujju and I were reporting, there are many differences, but these Kategayas, these Amanyamshegas, the Wapakabulos, the Bidan Salis, yes, but I should tell you, yes, there was something about those politicians at that time which, when opposition members of parliament like Ben Wacha, Okule Park, yes, people like that, when they stood up to speak, I'm telling you, even among Babos, they were keen to listen to them and integrate.
And they were speaking well.
Yes. So, because of that kind of attitude, also when the Kategaya spoke, the Okule Park and Ben Wachas could listen. Hold a second.
Many things have changed.
That's true.
There were no military people keeping people investments, teaching them when you are calling.
They were there. No, I remember there was a time, we have a clip on KFM at that time, where Kategaya was defending government, he was Minister of Internal Affairs, where they had said they had taken people in jail and they were being fed on crocodiles or just being tortured by crocodiles. So these things, by the way, Museveni's use of the security services to bully and intimidate his opponents did not begin yesterday. In fact, there were more politicians being tried for treason in the late 1980s. The Evaristo Nyanzis, even Moses Ali, you see, was tried with treason. They are demoralized. So many. Museveni breaking up rallies. I remember Michael Kagwe in 1993 trying to organize a rally at Square, and Museveni calling a closed session of the NRC saying, "You will see dead bodies." It was a headline in the Monitor. You will see dead bodies. The rally couldn't be held. If you went there, there were helicopters hovering over the air, there were tanks and armored personnel carriers. You would think that there was a war at the square, now called Constitutional Square. So, Museveni has not changed. He's been very consistent. When what is called Reform Agenda was formed, and later when they formed what was it called, PAFO, the Kategas were called me to give a speech at the PAFO conference in Jinja. I found Museveni had organized hooligans like the Tantrum Okots, beaten up everybody and dismissed his own colleagues who had disagreed with him. So Museveni has been very consistent in terms of use of violence to settle political disputes. But Museveni is much more sophisticated than that. You need to see him in his different facets.
Well, thank you. I want to bring in Honorable Ssemujju. Normally when there is a contentious and delicate subject like this bill, there is consensus from the opposition. But this time, there seems to be no consensus. Everyone is speaking in tongues. Does it tell anything about your approach?
No, we are united in our opposition against this bill. The motivation can vary.
No, but you remember,
because you see,
you remember the organization around Tojikwatako.
But it also didn't come that early. Because the stage at which we are, the bill is still before two committees of parliament, where we have colleagues. It will eventually come to parliament, maybe Tuesday, the speed at which they are processing it. Even when we are fighting against the removal of age limit, by that time, even I had some NRM people. I was in the same van with Sechko when we were being driven to Nagarama. So the opposition may not speak with the same voice on all the issues, but there are issues that will be conditioned to speak in the same way because they are going to affect us the same way. You have Dr. Besigye who was in the military court. You have people from NUP who are... So we are potentially all victims. But the other day, on this Besigye issue, the Supreme Court issued a judgment that precisely because of the issues around Besigye, that contradicted Museveni's wishes. So it's...
Let me finish the point I'm making. Let me finish the point I'm making.
That's a good point.
Can I finish, Simon?
There was, I think the other time we were debating bail and whatnot, again, in relation to Besigye. And I asked people, okay, so why don't I hear so much noise about the criminal trial that is going on? And the person has been denied bail over, I don't know, 10 times or something like that. Or why don't I...
It's not politically motivated.
Okay, fine. Shall we give Nicholas
the principle is simple. The principle is simple.
Nicholas, this is yours now.
Yes.
You have the platform.
Thank you very much.
Let me just point out again why I think the proposals in the bill contradict the Supreme Court, and to try and help my friend convince him to abandon the line that he's taking. The second reason is this. The Supreme Court said that you cannot mix administrative matters from criminal justice. People are saying, oh, there are other courts. There's a court in the police, there's a court for taxes. But those courts don't send people to jail because they're administrative in nature. They're dealing with questions of discipline and processes. For criminal trials, the general rule is go to the criminal court and try the persons there, where the standard of evidence is clear, the standard of proof is clear, the sort of things you must do to guarantee fair trial is very clear. That continuing to try people in the military court would never give anybody due guarantee for due process. Both soldiers, by the way, and ordinary people. And so the proposals in the bill, in so many respects, contravene the ruling of the Supreme Court. And if Parliament is minded to respect the decision of the Supreme Court and to respect the provisions of Article 92, they would not pass the law in the form and shape that it is in. But let me come back to respond to what Andrew has said. Andrew is absolutely right. You must get into the mind of the person proposing the law and understand their fears. The problem we have, and I'll give you two examples. One is my own case. You have a unit of the police called Crime Intelligence that had filed numerous voluminous information to the president and to the authorities.
Implicating you.
That I had received $500 million and I was the one financing Chagulanyi, financing the opposition in this country. Yes. Crime Intelligence, headed by a gentleman called Damulida. For that I was arrested. You know, I was taken to a lot of inconvenience. It proved that what they were saying was false. Because he didn't read the intelligence report that they had filed, right? The second example is this. Same Damulida. In 2018, he was still at CMI, right? They arrest Bobby Wine in the Arua by-election. They hold a press conference and parade a number of things they claim were recovered from his room. Several phones and SIM cards, rusty guns, a couple of ammunitions. I was a lawyer in that case. And I remember confronting him at the CID headquarters where he had come to convince me to drag Bobby Wine to the defense. There's a committee they had set up to try and investigate the incident. And we told him nonsense, we can't do that. The point, Simon, is that the Ugandan intelligence on many occasions have proven to be inaccurate. And to solely base a law on the basis of those false intelligence information is really to create a big problem for this country. The president is only as good as the information that he gets. And a lot of times, I just give you the example of General Kale Kaihura when he was IGP. He had up-to-date minute updates about FDC youth people. What time they left the country to go and train to become rebels, what time they came back, where they stayed. He never tried any one of them because those intelligence information were perhaps not accurate. And so I think that while we must speak to the framers of the law and understand their motivation, we must also point out the fact that oftentimes this kind of information has been based on less factual information. And we've taken actions such as this that have huge consequences. By the time you find out that they are false, people's lives have been upended in so many ways that you can't even recover from it.
So you want to suggest that government is reacting with paranoia and misinformation?
What I'm suggesting is let us have a deeper, longer discussion about this law and the mischief that the state is seeking to cure. Let's put that to test. Why would you rush to do this quickly without adequate public consultation and dissection of these issues?
We're taking a break in the next few minutes, but I would love to hear this from you. It looks as if the legal discussion has perhaps hit a dead end, or it's not been exhausted fully. Do you think this law should be confronted politically?
What is it even politically initiated? Because when I talk to the other guy, I only wish that one day he can end into that military court. Yeah, I really wish it, because when we are talking, we senior citizens are talking from a backward information of the suffering of this country, and you see these Gen Zs talking as if we know nothing.
No, I think that's harsh.
Did you hear what he said about me?
I always say that you say
these Gen Zs
you had not read the bill.
who don't know where we are coming from.
He's an NRM legal advisor.
Much older than Gen Z. I don't know that I thought Gen Z is the generation after us.
He's a bit small, but he's not as young.
My son, yeah? My son.
Gen Z.
It could be my son category. So, for me, what I was saying, I always speak my mind. And that doesn't mean that I don't know law. I don't know whether you have a doctorate or master's degree, but I want to tell you that I'm very highly qualified
I've seen many doctorates. I've avoided those ones.
in these matters, especially with the intelligent one. Not just talk like that. So what I was saying is this. You said it should know is legal, not political. The whole idea of wanting to get people, Ugandans, in the military court, suffer there, whether it is to negotiate, whether it is for them to be bought to leave their views and go with the views of the NRM, it is all wrong. Military should handle its own military things and allow. The whole idea is like Mwenda put it here. The whole idea of Museveni not wanting opposition to disturb him in his life presidency is the whole question here. And that's why you find, you remember the 100 millions they talked about? Then it went like this, which we had was going early enough for these people that when the law comes, they just pass it. So, when I come here to talk, by the way, on behalf of Ugandans, which this young man is saying is just giving our own passions and feelings, when we see things go wrong, we are elderly people, we must point out that. I still emphasize what my brother here was saying, Nicholas, that if there is a judicial system that is there and established to deal with its own, the right people it must deal with, why do you come in and fix in military court? To do what?